Okay, time to set off in the 2019 Ford F-150 Limited. This isn't just your regular F-150, you know, the one that they sell like a million of every year. No. This is not just for like the construction worker. This is for the guy who owns the construction company. He owns like 2 or 3 of them. That's who this is for, basically. More on that in a bit. But if this is your first time stopping by, welcome, and please consider, the thing that everybody else says. Please consider subscribing if you're new, and because I usually do full in-depth reviews such as this. And who knows? I may get some other trucks to review. Comment below which truck you would like me to do first. I mean, the only other truck I haven't driven yet are the Chevy, so maybe that's a start. If you would like to see a review on that, definitely let me know. And yeah, this is not a normal truck, and it's unfortunate because I actually did a review on a Ford F-150 Raptor, so I'll leave a link up to that, but please watch that after you watch this. And that was obviously an incredible experience, of course, but it's not a normal F-150, and I kind of wanted to try out like a normal one, maybe with a V8 actually, because I have not driven a V8 F-150, so I was hoping to maybe get like an XLT or something like that, but nope, got a Limited with the exact same Raptor engine. It's got the soul of a Raptor, basically. But is it worth it? I don't know. We're about to find out. Well, I'll tell you this. It does sticker for about 70 G's. So it's right up there with the Raptor that I reviewed. And I guess we can kind of sort of talk about the looks first. I know pretty much all trucks look very similar, and that looks are something that changes between person to person. Some of you may love this. The Chevy people will hate this. Whatever. To me personally, from my personal experience driving around in these trucks, we actually own a 2010 Tundra. That's a vehicle that we personally own, and driving this Limited around, the $70,000 vehicle, nobody cares. Nobody looks at this, demands no attention. This is so incognito. Nobody notices you in this vehicle because they sell like a million of these things. You know, other F-150s, not this particular trim, but this is a commonplace, and it's really nothing special at the end of the day. And you know, the Ram is the same way. The Ram is actually a truck that I drove. Didn't do a review on it, but I absolutely love that truck. It is an incredible experience, and you always keep hearing Ram this, Ram that. It's for good reason. I understand why it's outselling Chevy, even though I haven't driven one yet, because that's a really good truck. But both this and the Ram, nobody cares when you drive when you're driving around in them. They demand no real respect, and that's kind of unfortunate. Or it could be an amazing thing, because I think this truck is for the person who has a lot of money, and I said this in my first impressions review. You have a lot of money, and you don't want to show it, basically, but you want like a luxury car type of experience. Then I guess you would look into these fully loaded models. But I'm just going to get this right off my chest. This is not a truck that I would ever buy, or one that I would ever recommend someone buying, because this Limited costs like 70 G's. You might get it for like 60 or something like that, but it's still a very expensive proposition. I was looking at this Limited, I'm like, what does this thing offer? Because I remember, you know, what happened to the King Ranch edition? You know, back when I was growing up, that was like the top dog. So obviously the Limited is now like the new, you know, top of the line trucks, but there's always the Platinums and the King Ranches, and they're straight up luxury trucks for sure. And they don't cost anywhere near as much as this. And those things sticker for like 55 grand MSRP. Again, you probably get like 10 G's off that, because trucks are heavily incentivized. That truck is definitely my choice. If I wanted a luxury truck from Ford, that's what I would choose. And I love this truck, by the way. This has been an excellent driving experience, and I'm going to get into that now, because the looks of this is irrelevant. So the way this drives is by far the best thing about this truck, because I've been driving this around for a couple days now, and I think the two biggest highlights of this truck is the driving dynamics and this engine. This is the exact same engine out of the F-150 Raptor. It's the exact same engine, so you get this high output 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine with 450 horsepower and 510 pound-feet of torque. And yes, that is on premium, and yes, this thing does get like 13 mpg. But no matter, you're so rich that it doesn't really matter. And this is also the rear-wheel drive truck. This is the 4x2 truck, basically. It is not the 4x4, so that's another thing to keep in mind. This truck weighs about 5,100 pounds, and yes, Ford is the only company to do that, all aluminum body design. XLTs and stuff like that I was looking at, they weigh about 4,600 to 4,800 pounds, so a little bit less than this. And that is pretty much one of the lightest trucks, although I have to say the other trucks have kind of caught up. They only, like the Rams and the Silverados, are trying to use some lighter weight materials, and they're only about 200 pounds more than this. Regardless, this is still one of the lightest weight trucks. This thing is by far one of the fastest trucks because this engine is such a beast, and I can totally see this replacing a V8 engine. I have already said in the Raptor review, this is totally a replacement for a V8. Absolutely. This will thrash a lot of V8s. The only V8 that can probably keep up with this is like the Silverado 6.2 or whatever. That's like the most powerful V8 and a half ton, basically. When you put your foot down into this, I think the best part about this, and the biggest advantage that this truck has, even over the Raptor, is I thought the Raptor just did not, it was kind of, I didn't like it because it was kind of all over the place. Don't get me wrong, I love the Raptor, and I love the way it drove, but it was so like gear hunty and stuff like that, and there was way more turbo lag out of that engine. The lag is just so much less. And not just that, the transmission, this 10-speed automatic, I actually really like it in this setup with this truck right here. It feels so much more natural. It's still up in the higher gears, but when you put your foot down, like I was in 9th gear right there, it just dropped all the way down to 3 like it was nothing. So this reacts so much better than the Raptor. I think that's the biggest advantage that this truck has, and you really get to enjoy this power a lot more. But one thing to note about this power is that, yeah, 450 horsepower, 510 pounds-feet of torque, it sounds really juicy on paper, but it's not like a total rocket ship. But as far as trucks goes, yeah, it is. It's still one of the fastest trucks that you can probably get from the factory without whatever modifications. The thing with this engine is, whether you tip into the throttle or whether you floor it all the way, you're going to get about the same sensation, but you are absolutely going to be blitzing a lot of cars with this. Now, the second best thing about this truck, by far, it's just the way that this truck reacts. This is by far the best driving truck, without a doubt. This is, if you're buying a truck for the first time, the F-150 might be the best choice for you, because I got into this thing and I was just whipping this thing. It was so easy for me. There was no learning curve for me with this. Yeah, granted, I've been driving trucks and we own a truck, but despite that, I'll give you an example, like the Ram 1500, right? Everybody loves driving that truck, and I didn't quite push that truck the way I pushed this because I only had, I didn't have that much time with it. But the Ram 1500, when I got into it, it felt crazy substantial. It felt like I stepped into a Raptor, basically, and I had to get used to that truck a little bit. I had to get adjusted to it a bit. This truck is still huge, don't get me wrong. It's still like a massive vehicle, but I don't know what it is. I can place this on the road so much better. The way I have been pushing this thing is just unreal. I have so much confidence driving this truck, and I said this about the Raptor too. I mean, they're all F-150s at the end of the day, and all these F-150s, they have that same excellent dynamic. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that it's all aluminum body, but the way that this thing turns in and all that stuff, it just pivots around the corners. It's something that I have not yet experienced with any other truck. And yeah, even the Tundra that we own, it's not bad. It's somewhat easy to get used to, but it doesn't quite have the excellent driving dynamics that this F-150 has. And again, I have not driven the Silverado yet or the GMC, so I can't quite comment on that, but I feel like it's going to be a nice blend between this F-150 and the Ram. The way the Ram is set up, it's kind of all about luxury, basically. It doesn't even feel like you're driving a truck anymore. And that's, some people might not actually even like that, because some people, when they get into a truck, they want that raw feel, and you might actually appreciate the Tundra for that. And this F-150, despite how good it drives, it's still a truck at the end of the day, and you still feel like you're driving around a truck. I think a lot of people are going to like that. Yeah, by far, the handling of this is stupendous. I had this thing through some really tight, downtown roads and stuff like that. I did the same thing with the Raptor, just to see how usable or unusable the Raptor was. But finally just got some open road here. Yeah, this thing is so good. And I think this is going to be a strange comparison, but this almost kind of reminds me of the Kia Telluride I had recently, because As of recently, that's one of the larger vehicles that I got in my possession, and I was just throwing that thing around too. Obviously, it's not as big as this, but it's like one of the bigger cars, the two bigger cars I've gotten that I've just been thrashing around, and it's been absolutely fantastic. The steering in this is a little bit lighter than the Raptor, but this is perfection. The way this thing reacts with this 10-speed, the engine, all of it, fantastic. The steering. I will now probably get into the biggest con with this truck, and that is these 22-inch wheels. I said this is my first impressions, but the way that this is set up right now, rides identical to our Toyota Tundra. And that's fine for the most part, but you know that this truck can ride way better than what this does right now, because the XLT comes with 17-inch wheels, just 5 inches less than this. That's 5 inches, man. That's a lot of meat on those tires. 5 inches is a lot of meat, depending on who you ask. So don't ever disregard 5 inches of meat. Now, the reason why I love the King Ranch so much is because that comes with standard 18-inch wheels, and that's still pretty good. So you have a very luxurious interior, and the main difference I noticed with this Limited is you're not really getting a whole lot more other than like massage seats, which I'll get to in the interior segment. But what I've noticed is you get a lot more of just safety features as standard, which the other trucks like the Platinum and the King Ranch, you still get them as options. You know what I mean? So you can tick those boxes if you so choose, but there's really not a whole lot that you're getting with the Limited other than the fact that you get to drive around the Limited. I mean, like, it's really not not something that I would ever advise, especially when you get the other trucks for like 20 G's less, or even better, because if you want one of these Limited models, I think at that point I'd probably go with the Ram 1500, because that's cheaper still than this. But I get it, if you like Fords, if you just love how this thing drives or feels, then you're going to get an F-150, and that's totally justified. But the other thing is, you're not going to get this engine with those King Ranch models or Platinum models, because this engine is exclusive to this Limited and the Raptor. Probably hence the name Limited, it's limited to only this vehicle. But I think the V8 is still going to be excellent. I love the V8s in pretty much every other trucks, and the 5-liter, Coyote engine that Ford offers is one of the more powerful V8s that you can get. So I still think it's going to be a very enjoyable experience. You're still going to get this 10-speed. I'll be very curious to see how the F-150 V8 is going to respond to the 10-speed and that, because it's naturally aspirated. There is no turbo lag. Not that there is with this. This reacts pretty immediately. So you're going to love that, but I can still definitely settle for a V8. It's going to be a fantastic experience, I'm sure. And it's going to ride even better. The other things to note is that, well, it does have the 22-inch wheels, so the steering is going to react so much better. It's not going to feel quite as mushy, but again, does that really matter with a truck? I kind of want maximum comfort, I guess, because that would just be nice, right? But as far as visibility and stuff, it's a truck, very easy to see out of, and those mirrors do an excellent job. The side mirrors, I mean, this mirror, the one in the middle, that it really blows. This is a very inadequate mirror. It could be a little bit wider, it could be a bit taller. Don't know why they put such a pathetic mirror in here, but regardless, it's not that big of a deal, because these side mirrors do a lot of the heavy lifting for me. And something about this truck, man, it's just so much easier to place than the other ones. I don't know what it is. This is still a massive vehicle, don't get me wrong, but like I mentioned, I had this thing out of the downtown roads, and even on these 2-lane roads, I can hustle this thing without any issues. It's just, this is by far the biggest advantage, man. So I feel like with the smaller wheels, this is going to be one of my most favorite truck experiences. And I love that Ram. That's really something to consider, because if you're leasing trucks, you really need to look into that Ram 1500, because that thing is pretty much like driving around a Mercedes GLE. It's like an identical experience to that, basically. So definitely, if you're into leasing trucks, that's one to consider. There's a big reason why everybody's saying Ram this, Ram that. It's definitely seriously one of the best trucks out there right now. Even if it does look a bit inadequate, it's definitely very good. I mean, I personally think it looks clean, just demands no real respect. The Tundra, if you're going to buy and keep, for sure, finance it, whatever. I think the people who want Tundras, they're going to go and get a Tundra. They're going to pay that premium, because Tundras are one of the more expensive trucks in the class. If you look at like the middle trims, like, you know, an XLT versus like an SR5 Tundra, it's going to be like 10 G's more. But the good thing about the F-150 is I don't think this is going to be as reliable as a Tundra, but it's going to be the second best choice, I think, because this thing still holds their value pretty good. I mean, most trucks do, even the Dodges. You know, comment down below if you own one of these F-150s. I would love to hear your thoughts on ownership after a couple of years, if so, if you've had it that long. But you know, they've been making 1 million of these units here, and there's a lot more of a test sample, I guess you can say, with the F-150. So, you know, these seem to be pretty tried and true trucks. They hold their value extremely well. So F-150 is always going to be a desirable truck. I mean, obviously people love these things. They sell 1 million, so we're close to 1 million. I'm just going to talk about like 2 or 3 more things here. I'm just going to talk about this engine sound. I love the way this engine sounds. It is by far one of basically the best sounding engine. I mean, it sounds like a turbo diesel, basically. That's really what it sounds like. I said that in the Raptor review as well. So I really do enjoy the sound of this. But unlike the Raptor, you don't get a lot of the engine, like the turbo spooling sound like you do with that Raptor. But when you put the windows down, you do get it. So I feel like they're definitely pumping in noise because it's got this nice growl to it when you have the windows up. So I think they're definitely pumping that sound in. But regardless, it sounds really excellent in here. And when you put the windows down, you get to hear that pretty sweet turbo spooling sound. Okay, so another disadvantage with this truck, it is by far not the best turning circle. It's not like a Tundra where you have the turning circle of like a Civic, basically. So you're not going to be busting like, you know, easy U-turns in this. So that's another little disadvantage. If you're going to live with this truck every day, basically, you're going to have to keep that in mind with this. And one last thing, you know, I had this thing out on the highway. You know, refinement of this truck, not too bad, better than the Tundra, but definitely not as good as the Ram 1500. That is by far the quietest truck and probably the most comfortable truck that you can buy. So if you value those things, leasing a Ram might be in your best interest. But if you like to drive your trucks a little bit more, I think the F-150 is one of the best kind of like everyday trucks that you can possibly buy. And road noise is still pretty good in this. Very appropriate for a truck, and the stability at high speeds. I said this with the Raptor as well. It is fantastic at 70 plus miles per hour. Highly stable truck. So that's really fantastic. I mean, I don't think you should be having an issue with stability with any of these trucks. They all have double wishbone suspensions up front, all pretty heavy vehicles. You know, it's not going to get swayed around in the wind or anything like that. So you don't have to be really too worried about that. But look at the different trims, see what you probably resonate with the most. You know, the price of this, I just can never justify it. I mean, you can literally go and lease like a BMW M550i with a twin turbo V8, not a twin turbo V6. And it'll be even cheaper than this truck. So the price, man, I can never justify this. I mean, I don't know if there's some strange like thing going on between truck owners where you're just trying to flex on each other. I mean, I feel like, you know, most guys, myself included, would be more interested in impressing women, not other guys in trucks. You know, that's not really my mission here. But maybe, I don't know, for you it might be different. You know, maybe you want to be the biggest, baddest guy on the construction site. I don't know. So if you have to be that guy, then I guess F-150 Limited is the most expensive truck that you can possibly get. Not a lot of value to be had with this, but the F-150 as a whole, I love that. So XLTs, King Ranches, whatever, you're going to love it. So let's go ahead and let's get into that interior now. Okay, so climbed inside the interior. You might be thinking, oh, this has to be the spot where this truck is worth 70 grand. And maybe when you look at it for the first time, I guess these seats, they do look like money for sure. They definitely killed it with this this two-tone design, this very nice kind of like light brown with this kind of beigey kind of like light color. I mean, that two-tone really works out. It's a very classy design. I absolutely love it. But this is the exact same layout as in every other F-150. I mean, why would they change it, right? It's just easier to keep the same design in the assembly line, but different types of materials, I guess. More, you know, soft touchy like leather looking materials in the upper dash here. Soft touch materials pretty much everywhere except for, you know, down underneath where you do find the plastics. But overall, I mean, you know, people say that this interior isn't that great or the Chevys aren't that great. Honestly, I think the Chevy is better than this, but this isn't a bad interior. better than the Tundra, I guess. But you know, you got this wood design here and right there. I mean, it's really, this is not a $70,000 interior. Let me just put it that way. But it doesn't really matter. That's the person buying this doesn't really care. What that person will care about is just how soft and supple these seats are. I feel like most truck seats are, but this is pretty extraordinary for a leather design. I absolutely do love it. I think the design, like I mentioned multiple times, looks fantastic as well. Probably the biggest problem I have with this truck is this big fat limited stamp right here. This is pretty badass, don't get me wrong, but this is, dude, when it's like 100+ degrees outside, like it has been for the past couple of weeks here, you will absolutely just be branding yourself with this F-150 limited logo every time you decide to put your arm on this armrest. But otherwise, nice, soft, padded, makes a little creak when you shut it. It's like a, I don't even know, it's like a medieval era like door that you just opened, squeaked, and closed. I mean, it's kind of a strange sensation, but in a weird way, I kind of like it. But obviously, being a truck, tremendous amounts of space in here. I joked about this in the Raptor. You're pretty much just stepped inside of a small apartment building here. You can literally just live in this if you wanted to. And if you did want to live in it, you can enjoy a nice little massage. I mean, there is a massage feature in this vehicle, but it's really not that crazy of a massage. I mean, it's pretty nice, I guess. I mean, you definitely do feel it working, but not something necessary. It's not something you absolutely need in your F-150, that's for sure. So I'm just turning that off so it doesn't like affect the audio. But these door handles, I absolutely love that. That's fantastic. One of the best door handle designs ever for sure. The steering wheel is absolutely excellent. It's nice leather wrapped, and it's like, I feel like it's pretty genuine leather. It's a very nice, soft, supple steering wheel. Perfect size, perfect girth, if you will, and it's just fantastic. You have a couple controls here as well, and you can switch between your tracks, raise or lower your volume. You have this left side here to go through your middle gauges, but honestly, it's the same stuff as the Raptor. I'm not going to go through all of that. I will say though, probably the biggest change between this and the Raptor is actually the drive mode selection. It's actually right here on this, you know, gear lever knob. I did try out all the modes. I didn't really talk about this in the driving segment because, like in most cars, normal is my most favorite drive mode setting. But when I did put it into sport mode, obviously it did, you know, it basically just kicked you down a gear. That's pretty much it. I think in normal mode, it reacts just fine. So whatever fuel economy savings you can get, I would take it. I did put it in eco mode though. Not bad, but it doesn't give you that same thrust, I guess, as you would in normal and sport mode. When you have such an amazing engine, you should use it, basically. You shouldn't just deprive yourself of that, and putting that in eco mode doesn't make any sense. But also, no four-wheel drive, so no real crazy controls there. It does have a trailer backup, which is an option pretty much every other F-150 as well. This screen absolutely sucks. I said that before, and the Raptor review. Not exactly the most reactive. I mean, it reacts okay. It reacts better than it did in the what's it called, Raptor, but I don't know. I mean, it's really not the best. I do like how the climate control is separated from it. When you try to, you know, change your fan speeds or your temperatures or anything like that, you have to look up at the screen to basically adjust it. So it's not completely separated from the screen. So if this ever goes wrong, your climate control may be affected. So there is that. Your auto stop start is here. Your traction control off is here. This truck will always pretty much, you know, break traction if you try to floor it in this, because it's just rear wheel drive only, but that's pretty awesome. You do have heated and cooled seats in the front two seats here. You do have heated seats in the rear, and you do have your house outlets, of course, and plenty of cubby spaces, like I already mentioned. Water bottles, not even an issue. You can literally just live in here if you wanted to. Your USB ports are here to basically control your Apple CarPlay, and will charge up your phone as well, and it does it extremely fast like it does in most cars. And of course, push button start. This key is interesting. This is the exact same key out of a BMW, so that's interesting. I guess they use the same supplier. Anyway, I'll end off on one last thing. This Bang & Olufsen sound system, not really worth it. It doesn't. You can obviously tell this is not the same Bang & Olufsen that they use in like a BMW or a Mercedes. That's for sure. It's definitely a step down from that. Actually, it sounds pretty monotone, not that remarkable. So that kind of begs the question: how does the standard non-B&O sound system sound? I don't know. I haven't heard it, so it probably sounds terrible. So I guess you at least have to step up to the B&O to have somewhat decent sound system. You have these automatic window switches for your front two windows, but your rears are not one touch up and down. So I guess it's something that they could add in the $70,000 vehicle. That would be much appreciated. There is no wiper stock. It's actually just this little knob here, so that's something to keep in mind. And your light switches here, like it is in like a European car, I guess. It does have auto light switches, of course. It also does have like an adjustable pedal thing here, so that's kind of cool. That's pretty much everything. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at that rear seats. Stepping inside, you do have your automatic running boards here, which are electronic, which I did not mention. They're pretty nice. Once you close the doors, they'll pretty much close back in, and once you open them up, they'll retract out so you can get in and out pretty easily. But this truck, it's not super high up. Obviously it's no Raptor, but even compared to like normal trucks, like this definitely is a little bit lower. I don't know if it's because it's a limited model, they didn't quite raise it up like all crazy and stuff, but regardless, nice to have those running boards. Obviously those can break in the future, but you're so rich you don't care. Obviously, this doesn't need to be, exaggerated upon more than it needs to be, because I think everybody knows once you get these crew cab pickup trucks, you've pretty much just climbed inside of like 75 acres of space. This is just stupid. You don't even need this much space. You can be like 8 foot tall and have no issues in here. I will say though, the headroom isn't quite as dramatic as I thought it would be. Most of these trucks, you just have stupid amounts of space and like everywhere you look, but just something to note, I guess. I feel like in the Raptor I had more space, but that didn't have like this big panoramic thing here, so maybe that's why. Yeah, this thing does have a big panoramic sunroof, by the way. And you still get the same nice leather quality, very soft, supple, supportive seats in the rear. Really fantastic, looks great as well, like I mentioned. And even in the rear, you have the limited kind of embossment treatment here, so that's cool. And you do have some flimsy cup holders in the rear, pretty useless. But you do have these nicer ones up here, so that's nice. And you do have ventilation, heated seats, like I mentioned, and the same, plug in a toaster outlet with your, USB to charge up your phones. A little bit of a door pocket space. Yeah, door pocket and seat pocket, sorry. And there you go. That's pretty much everything. Same nice door handles. Love that. So that's pretty excellent. And real quick, before we get into the truck bed, you can actually fold this up rather easily. You just kind of do that and you have plenty of space to store things. I would say tools, but you're not loading up tools in this. You own the construction company, so you're not going to be doing any hard work, of course. And just pull on this latch, pull it down. You can do the same thing with the other two seats over there. Flips up real easy to put down. So with that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the bed. Okay, so making our way to the rear, of course you can drop this with your key fob because you're going to be bougie like that. Thank God this one at least has the sprayed in bed liner, which is just mandatory. A lot of Chevy boys saying that, oh, their trucks are better because it's steel bedded or whatever, at least the Chevy commercials anyway. Dude, just get the bed liner. You can drop toolboxes in here left and right, no issues. But that is something to keep in mind. I guess it is all aluminum, bed. So there's that. And what's a Ford truck without the dance poles? Of course, you have drop that, lose a couple fingers. There you go. So you have this because you're going to be using this all the time, right? Yeah, bit of a fiasco to put that down, of course. The nonsense. Anyway, despite being all aluminum, this thing is quite heavy. Maybe it's that dance pole in there, so it's a little bit more heft to this tailgate than I thought. But got that. It's a 5.5 foot bed. That's what you get with every crew cab truck. 5.5 foot is it's fine, but it's just like, as long as you're not using a toolbox. But if you are using a toolbox, 5.5 foot bed becomes kind of useless. But again, you're the construction contract owner. You're not the actual construction worker, basically. So you don't care about this. Just get the bed cover for this and don't even worry about. Pretend like your truck doesn't even have a bed with it. You're just a big boss and you're limited F-150, as it states right there. So that's pretty much that. Like the same 5.5 foot bed you're gonna get with any other truck. Well, I guess I will say this: it's pretty easy to like reach down in here. Probably because it's a little bit of a lower truck, so maybe that's why. But it's good to know, even if you get the other F-150 models, you know, reaching in, grabbing things is pretty good. I feel like it might not be as the height of it maybe is a little bit lower. Maybe it's not as big as a Tundra or something like that. Because with the Tundra, I can't even like reach down in there, and I'm like 5'11", so that's something to keep in mind. I think for 2019, I guess one of the biggest changes was in the rear with the dual 2 exhaust pipes, I guess. So that's pretty cool. But with that, let's go ahead and let's get into the conclusions now. Okay, so ending this review off. So in conclusions, ladies and gentlemen, what do I think about this truck? Is this my new favorite truck? Honestly, it's up there on the totem pole, that's for sure. After driving this, no other truck can definitely compete with the handling of it, at least the ones I tried out. I obviously have not tried the Chevy out or the Nissan. I mean, I don't know if you guys care about the Nissan, but I'm just saying I haven't tried it out. And out of the Tundras, yeah, this definitely outhandles it, and this will definitely outhandle a Ram as well. But how much does that matter to you? I don't know. Obviously, I've said this multiple times. This Limited is not the model that I would choose ever because it costs too much. But the other F-150s in the lineup, I guess, I think is an absolute go. I mean, with the smaller wheels, you're obviously not going to curb it as easily. This is a press vehicle. It already came with a curbed wheel in the back. So something to keep in mind with these big dubs that it's rolling on. You know, even if you want 20-inch wheels, you can still get that on a King Ranch. Like I said, V8 engine, it's still going to be an excellent choice, I feel like. As far as the comfort is concerned, I mean, yeah, that's also kind of the issue I have with these big-ass wheels. I mean, this pretty much rides like a Tundra, and that shouldn't really offend anybody. I'm just saying it's not quite as luxurious as the Ram, but it could be quite as luxurious as the Ram if it just came with some smaller damn wheels. Also, this interior is really not that amazing, but this two-tone, it does look pretty spectacular, I guess. But you know, the Ford Sync system, still not the best. I mean, they could definitely improve upon that, but otherwise everything else works pretty good. It's traditional Ford. I mean, nobody should have any real issues with it. Everything's pretty ergonomic for the most part in here. Pretty easy. Obviously, one of the easiest trucks to get used to in terms of driving. If this is your first truck, an F-150 is definitely one of the best choices you can make because it's going to be so easy. It's so easy to place on the road. And it's just out of the truck driving experience I've had, this has definitely been one of my most enjoyable ones because I like to drive, and this F-150 is a great driving vehicle. So if you can appreciate that, you can appreciate the Ford brand. Again, you know, if you're a rich construction site dude and you want to flex on the other construction workers, I guess, yeah, this is the top trim, but this is literally BMW M550 money, a C63S money. You know what I mean? There's just no way you're going to get me to cough up that much money, like $1,000+ per month for a truck. That's just not going to happen, not for me anyway. But if you're interested in impressing other dudes, I guess this is pretty good. But I would save 20 G's and get some of the other models, or even the Ram Limited fully loaded is going to be better equipped than this, and it's going to look better on the inside, and it's going to be cheaper in general. So if you're looking at a limited model, I guess the Ram would be my choice, but this is the king of the Fords, and this engine is pretty spectacular. If you want this high output V6, this is the only trim you can get, and this Limited and the Raptor. And one thing about the Raptor, if you're going to spend 70 G's on a toy, you might as well make it a somewhat decent investment. And the Raptor is a pretty good investment because that thing will never, ever, ever lose any of its values. And if you pick one up that's been sitting on the lot for like 55 grand, there is no better truck investment than that. It's already, you know, you're not going to be off-roading in it. You're not going to be towing with this. You're not doing anything with it. You're just driving it around. So if you really want a king of trucks, then the Raptor would be a pretty nice choice because you get the big badass looks and all that, and also it retains so much value. This is still a truck. It's still going to retain some value, but the Raptor is just the king of resale. So that's something to keep in mind. But, you know, this is going to be a lot more manageable around town, so a little bit more comfortable. So there's that. I mean, it's just, point being, you're not going to go wrong with an F-150. If you drive one, you're going to appreciate it. And so with that, that pretty much wraps things up. I mean, it's a fantastic truck. I mean, there's a reason why it's the #1 seller, and I'm assuming 1 million of these things have sold. So one of you million purchasers, please let me know in the comment section how it's been holding up for you, if you still enjoy it after owning it for a couple months or years. Let me know in the comment section below. And with that, that pretty much concludes this review on the 2019 Ford F-150 Limited. I hope to get the other trucks to review soon. And if you want, this is the end of the review. If you found value with this, please consider subscribing or even becoming a Patreon member. if you want to help facilitate some of the costs that go into making these videos. So thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye.